Hey everybody, and welcome to another commission painting vlog. This is for the end of September of 2015. So this has been a month. It's been quite a month. I'm going to share some pain with you. My first project this month, and I'll go ahead and roll some pictures while I talk about this. My first project was a Convergence of Cyrus Force for War Machine, and I actually had been really looking forward to doing this. I like the Convergence, the look of the Convergence models, and there was a lot of them, so I kind of got to see what the entire range has to offer. And this was good and bad. The good part is I did get a fair look at all of the models, or a good chunk of the models. The bad is that, well, there was a couple of things. And let's start with the, let's call it quality control for the stuff that I was doing. So, because I had an entire force, I got to open up a lot of models, a lot of boxes, and do a lot of assembly work. And I had a fair number of missing pieces, which is distressing. Especially, you're on a, you've got time constraints. It's not like you've got all the time in the world to work on this stuff. And so, as soon as the first piece showed up missing, I was like, well, okay, well, that's going to be something we're going to have to wait for. And then the second piece. And I think in total, well, in total, I think it was like 5 pieces. But I ended up replacing 3 pieces. And that was because there was no way around it. Sometimes if I get, if a piece comes up missing, I can do, I can recast it. Like if I have another one and it's a simple part, I can make a simple mold and make a new piece. And I've done that several times over the last year. Sometimes, and because in some cases you get like 2 of the same part when there should be 2 different parts, and sometimes I can modify the parts to make them work. And I actually had to do that on this project as well. But I had some parts there where there's going to be no way to replace them, and aside from having them shipped out. So I did that. And there was more pieces that I wanted to have to do, which meant that those models were going to have to sit aside while I worked on the other ones and waited for the pieces to show up. On the other hand, they actually have a fairly, Privateer Press has a fairly simple replacement process where you just go to their site, you tell them what you're missing, describe the thing, send it in, you get a replacement within like a week and a half or so. And I guess about how much time it took all told. But that did end up slowing me down a bit. So on top of all of those problems, and again I think it was about 5 different pieces that were missing or I had the wrong one. On top of that, I really realized that I hate their plastics. Not the new ones that I guess they have coming up, which should be regular injection molded plastic, but the stuff that people like to refer to as restic, but I hate that word because it means nothing. Somebody decided to put resin and plastic into one word, even though resin, just saying resin kind of covers that, but whatever. Since people have adopted it, if I say restic, a lot of you will know what I'm talking about. It's that crappy plastic that Mantic uses and Privateer Press uses. And the pieces that are cast in that material can be, more often than not, malformed in some way or another. The seam lines can be awful. For some reason, I don't know what it is about the mold making process of that material that seems like they want to put the mold, the parting lines of the mold in some of the worst places possible. But that seems to be the case, and in many cases, if you eliminate those lines, you're really destroying detail on the model. So it becomes like how much of that do I want to do? You're like, oh, I should just, there's going to be some remnant of it, or I'm going to be otherwise destroying this model, or I'm going to have to completely resculpt this area. None of those are good choices. So that was disconcerting, and it tends to really sap my enthusiasm when I end up with poorly cast pieces. They can't move on to their new plastics fast enough, is all I'm saying. I've always wondered why it was that Malifaux could switch over to injection molded plastics as what was ostensibly a smaller company at the time they did it, but Privateer Press couldn't. And even now, as they are working on doing that, it seems to be an incredibly slow process. So that was disappointing. All of that was disappointing. And then on top of that, I had another problem of my own creation, and that was I was working on the Clockwork Angels, which of all of the models there, probably the ones I was the most excited about doing because they are really interesting design. But they're fiddly little models, fiddly little metal models with small pieces. And at one point, as I'm assembling one of the angels, I drop an arm. I think it was an arm. Yeah, it was an arm. And the arms are, again, spindly, small, not microscopic, but small. And, down it goes. Well, actually, the truth is, I didn't even notice that it had gone. What had happened is, I was doing some assembly, kind of fumbled with it a bit, and I bent down and caught it before it could fall, picked it up, looked at it, and realized the arm was missing. So, never saw it fall, never heard it fall, didn't see it fall, so I don't have any sense of where it might have gone. But it couldn't have gone more than 1.5 feet down. And so I look down, don't see it, back up, don't see it, start scouring around the floor of the shop in, wider and wider concentric circles around this area. And I can't find it. And it's an arm. It's not even like it's a microscopic piece. And I have dropped microscopic pieces and been able to find them. This is an arm. And so, as it started, I was becoming more and more frustrated with this. I decided that, you know what, it was a good time to clean the shop. Because as I was rooting around for things, I noticed all of the crap that was on the floor and decided that, yeah, maybe this is a good time. I'll clean the shop, I'll find the part, it'll be great. I found 3 pieces for models that I had lost over the last year. 2 of which I had actually recast, and one of which I was really excited to find because it was from my starter set of Dark Age, which I sort of stopped working on when I lost the part. But I never found that arm. To this day, have not found that arm. Like, I'm literally looking for it now because I don't know what happened to it. So I realized, okay, I'm going to have to replace that, and I emailed Privateer Press, completely forgetting that they actually have like a bits store where you can order model parts. And I knew, like, this wasn't their fault, this was my fault. But I emailed them saying, hey, I know that you guys didn't mispack this, and I lost this part, and how do I go about getting a new one? And while I was waiting to hear back on that, I worked on the other 2 angels, or started work on the other 2 angels. And got some base coats on them, and was sort of working out the color scheme that I wanted to do. And this is just, What a horrible month. So I'm getting the airbrush ready. It's right here. Getting the airbrush ready. Had a model in my hand. Yeah, it must have been in my hand. But I guess at some point I forgot that it was there and dropped it. And so, and you can see how I feel like maybe I'm just going insane or something. I don't know. But anyway, I grab my airbrush, I bring it up, and I start like, where's the model? Where did it go? And I kind of look on the floor and I don't see it. So then I back up my chair so I can get a better look. And the chair goes, thump. So yeah, that was the angel that was under my chair. And I just rolled over it. So at that point, I emailed Privateer Press again and said, never mind, I'm just going to replace that whole set. Which I did. I ordered it that day, had it the next day, and then I repainted it. And then I started over on those models. And in many ways, it was a good thing. I think because of all the problems that I had been having up to that point, I wasn't going in what I think was a good direction with those models. And so when I had to kind of start fresh and do it all over again, they went in a better direction. And the final result is the best of that whole army, in my opinion. I really, really like how those turned out. But man, that was a huge pain in the ass. So that was really... It was a long way around to get there. So that's, yeah, and again, the arm never turned up. I have no idea what happened to that. At some point, I think, when I moved the shop from here outdoors back into the house for the winter, it'll probably turn up. So after that, of course, I have been working on dust models. I love working on dust models. It's sort of like the best part of working on historical and sci-fi stuff all rolled into one. Look at that guy. They are very pleasing to me. And I have more, and I'm actually working on a converted Panther tank. See how it's got like crazy Tesla weapon or something? Actually, it's more like just a laser. It's not a Tesla weapon. I think it's the Germans have the Tesla weapons. Not Germans, the Russians. Sorry. Brain's not entirely here today. I did this giant walker, which has many extra pieces because this turret comes off and other things go there. And that's been super fun. But and I have I haven't taken a picture of it yet, and it's not sitting here, but I have a staghorn from Horde's Circle Army. Circle? I think that's correct. That I worked on and have finished. It's actually been sitting there for a few days, and I really should have photographed it by now, but I haven't done that. But first up, for next week, I have awesome, cool night models, Marvel characters. Got an Iron Man. I got Wolverine versus Sabretooth. I used to have that issue when I was a kid. And then not Marvel, but DC. I got Batman on the Bat Pod. That's exciting. I am really psyched to be doing these. I've only done one before because these are the large models, not the smaller ones. Very excited because they're just so cool, so fun. I think Iron Man's going to be really an interesting challenge, because I think I'm going to go with the candy apple style metallics. like I did if you look at my Halo Covenant ship, like that. So I just got to make sure I have good reds for that. I'm not sure I have a good clear red for that. Maybe I do. I think I have the Badger one. Would probably work. I got to experiment. I have the War Colors red as well. They're clear red, but it's not super vibrant. A red. It's almost muddled. So I've got that going on. I've got some Forge World projects actually I got a couple of those sitting here. So this is Lorgar and Zardu Layak and Blade Slave's Bodyguard, and there's another one over there, and I can't remember which one that is. All chaosy stuff. So that'll be fun. It's actually really kind of a mix of stuff. I have some Halo ships to do for next month. Yeah, super exciting. So one of the things I did on my site recently was I kind of put up a store. It's kind of a crappy store, but I didn't want to do a full-on e-commerce site for stuff that I'm just kind of getting rid of. But I've got some decal sets that I used to manufacture several years ago, and they are primarily for the Space Marine player, 40K. They were all sized to do Space Marine shoulder pads, Terminators, in some cases larger vehicle sheets. But these are old decal sets that once we stopped having the online store for that stuff, they just sort of sat in a drawer for a long time, and I thought I might as well try and find homes for them. So I'm doing that right now. So if you go to jayadan.com, Jayadadan, I'll actually put a link here that'll take you right over there. There's sort of a mix of decals. There are some screen printed decals that we had done through Microscale back in the day, and then a handful of Alps printed decals. Really miss the Alps printer. It was nice being able to do that stuff. I'm also going to be offering in the future probably limited production stencils, things that I've done for myself that, why not? Why not let you have them too? And don't tell anybody, but I might actually do some Star Wars stuff in there. Just don't say anything. Just that's between us. Yeah, I'm just trying to get some stuff going there with that. I used to do decals for like almost 10 years, and it was a lot of fun, but it was also a lot of work. And the old Alps printer was cool in that you could do very small runs of custom decals and stuff, but the printers, they went away. They're no longer available, and the alternatives now cost thousands of dollars, which is really it's really not good. So in terms of scheduling right now for projects, if you are thinking about having me paint something for you, I actually have a little bit of time left in October for projects. So if you were thinking you wanted me to do something for you and you don't want to wait a long time, now would be a really good time to hit me up. I have been getting a lot of queries about board game projects. There's a new Kickstarter that must have just delivered, because in a very short period of time I got 3 different queries about it through Board Game Geek. But none of those have followed through yet. But that means I have a little bit of time left in October, and November is completely empty right now. So that puts your wait time at really almost the minimal level that you would get when signing up to do a project with me. And so that means that actually you want to hit me up as quickly as possible. Those slots fill up very quick, sometimes in rapid succession. So if you want me to do a project, perfect time, right now. So one thing I haven't done a lot this month, which is really depressing, is gaming. I've gotten a little bit of gaming in. Specifically, I fell in love with, bought, and then played a copy of Heroes of Normandy, which I didn't realize, but once I got it, it was totally apparent. It's sort of another miniatures game without miniatures. It's played on a grid with cardboard counters, but the cardboard counters are sized for 15mm miniatures. Like, you could just swap them out completely or mount minis on top of the counters because the counters have information on them that you want. And my son and I have only played it a couple of times, but I'm really kind of starting to fall in love with it. What is really interesting is that it really adopts that miniatures game feel, in that you can play with scenarios and it'll tell you what to use when you're playing a scenario. But on top of that, you can just build a force using points and sort of surprise your opponent with the cool things that you've built. It also has, it's not just a war game with counters, it also has some cards that you use at various times during the game to kind of screw over your opponent or provide yourself with a buff. It's pretty cool. And the game plays out pretty quickly, which I like too. I like my games lighter these days. So that's been pretty cool. Didn't get in any miniatures gaming this month. Tried and tried, but it just hasn't happened. Although it sounds like I might be doing some Imperial Assault with my friend John in the near future. He just picked that up, and I've been dying to play it. And we're both sort of completely geeking out on Star Wars these days. He's been getting me to read the new the new fiction. So I'm currently reading Star Wars Aftermath, which, contrary to what you may read on Amazon, is a fantastically written book. So yeah, looking forward to doing that. But other than that, that's really the only gaming I've done. And so next month, I'm hoping to do a little bit more. Got my fingers crossed. All right, I'm not going to let this one run long this time. I really appreciate everybody who watches the show. If you want to support the show, definitely head over to Patreon. I will include a link in the show notes. And think about, kicking in $1 or $2 every month. What's it gonna hurt? No, I really appreciate every little bit that is donated towards these videos. Makes it easier for me to do the videos and provides a lot of inspiration for me to continue doing them. In fact, this video almost got pushed off to next month, and I got an email from a guy who talked about how much he liked my vlogs, and I was like, oh, well, now I gotta go do one. But again, I just appreciate everybody that spends time listening to me spout my nonsense. So good on you all. So thanks a lot. I will talk to you again in my next video. Take care. 3, 2, 1. I don't want to 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1.